Coming up on Spartan Sports Report, the Michigan State men's basketball team tried to defend home court as a West Coast foe rolled in. The women's gymnastics team looked to stick the landing, bringing in another ranked opponent to Denison Fieldhouse. And the women's basketball team hit the hardwood, looking to fight its way back into the win column.
Welcome into a new episode of Spartan Sports Report. I'm Kyle Keegan.
And I'm Jacob Maurer. And Kyle, it still doesn't feel warm outside, but apparently spring break is right around the corner.
Around the corner? I don't see spring break anywhere in here, Jacob.
Yeah, me neither. All right, well, something that's not taking a break is Spartan Athletics.
That's right, Jacob. And another kind of break, the fast break, is something that MSU Hoops was able to run a lot of this weekend. So let's get right into it. After a poor performance on the road against Wisconsin, the number 15 Michigan State men's basketball team headed home for a showdown with the UCLA Bruins on February 17th. A switch flipped for the Spartans against UCLA after they struggled from beyond the arc against the Badgers, as the Bruins had no answer for the barrage of Spartan threes like this one from the wing from Jordan Scott and another from Jeremy Fears Jr. at the top of the key. MSU also found success on the glass as Cohen Carr missed this dunk, but here's Trey Fort cleaning up the scraps with another triple. Big shot. Scott was also active on the boards. Look at this putback layup, extending the Spartan lead to 19. And just like he seems to do every game, Carr went flying, finishing this alley-oop lob from Fears, sending the Breslin crowd into a frenzy. Cam Ward put the exclamation point on the win with this dunk as the green and white took down UCLA 82-59. Following the dominant win over UCLA, MSU looked to keep its momentum going against Ohio State, but Fears would start the game with this uncharacteristic turnover on the first possession. But here's Cohen Carr getting things going with the monster slam. And the Spartans struggled early, though, against the Buckeyes' zone defense. Carson Cooper was hitting some shots. Look at this mid-range jumper. Now Jackson Kohler hitting a three to cut the deficit down, but it was 16 points from Ohio State's Bruce Thornton that left MSU trailing by 3 at the break. And coming out of the half, Cooper continued his career night, getting this hook shot to fall. After a slow start in the first, Fears put up 9 of his 11 points in the second frame. Jordan Scott also scored 10 of his 12 with physical play, grabbing this rebound and putting it back up for another tough finish. The Spartans got it done 66-60, although head coach Tom Izzo and center Carson Cooper were not satisfied after the game.
The biggest thing I'm concerned about is unforced turnovers. We had 4 of them before the game started. We had 1 in the first 10 seconds. It's ridiculous.
Well, all of us players, kind of have to, look at ourselves in the mirror and say, how do I get better from here? And how do I just keep going? How do I keep grinding? How do I keep, taking one step in front of the other instead of taking, 2 steps or 3 steps back?
MSU now gears up for an Indiana road trip starting this Thursday against Purdue.
Speaking of travel, the Michigan State baseball team was far from home as the team battled number 3 ranked Texas in a 3-game series last weekend in Austin. Junior second baseman Ryan McKay provided the only RBI for MSU as the Spartan offense was stifled in their first tilt, falling 8-1 to the Longhorns on Friday. Looking to come back in Game 2, the Spartans hung in it with an RBI single by McKay in the third to keep the game tied at 1 through 7 innings. The Longhorns fought back as the green and white were unable to turn a double play, and a pass ball allowed the go-ahead run to score. Texas would then add some insurance in the 8th with a home run by Aiden Robbins to win the game 3-1. Aiming to finish the series strong, Michigan State put together 5 hits to attempt to find a win. However, the only highlight would be from freshman CJ Dekinga knocking his first hit of the season and collegiate career by beating out an infield single in the second inning. In the end, the Spartans couldn't find their momentum, with Texas winning the final game of the series 4-0. Up next, MSU will fly down to South Carolina for the first pitch invitational, with their first matchup being against Illinois on Friday.
On the other side of the diamond, the Michigan State softball team traveled to Baton Rouge this weekend to take part in the Purple and Gold Challenge. The Spartans opened up with 2 games on Friday against Louisiana Lafayette Ragin' Cajuns and the number 19 LSU Tigers. MSU suffered losses in both games, falling 6-1 against the Ragin' Cajuns and 9-0 to LSU. Junior Kendall Smiley scored the only run of the day off the bat of freshman Zoe Bernard. Sparty got back on track Saturday behind stellar pitching from sophomore J.C. Schuler, notching a shutout victory over the Howard Bison 6-0. Following the commanding victory, MSU took on LSU once again, this time in a back-and-forth match. The Spartans out-hit the Tigers on the day, but gave up a season-high 7 walks that helped LSU prevail 5-4. Bernard improved her hitting streak to 7 games on Sunday in a dominant win over the Bison 5-0, and the Spartans will travel to Kentucky to compete in the John Kropp Classic this weekend.
The number 1 ranked Michigan State men's ice hockey team welcomed in Notre Dame for its penultimate home series of the regular season. The Spartans came into this game rocking their throwback uniforms in the spirit of 80s night in the hope of chasing down the Big Ten season title for the 3rd straight year. Spartans started hot with Maxim Sturback firing this loose puck in the slot past the blocker and giving the green and white a 1-0 lead just over 3 minutes in. Notre Dame extinguished the Spartans' momentum with this backdoor feed and one-timer by Dashiell Oliver to even the score. A period later on the power play, this tic-tac-toe from the first line ends on the stick of Charlie Stramel in the slot, and he doesn't miss from there, putting Sparty back in front. But deja vu from the first period, as just 2 minutes later the Irish answered with this absolute snipe from Cole Knuble. That was a confirmed goal after review and re-knotted the game at 2. Michigan State would take back the lead on a power play late in the second, where Gavin O'Connell received this feed from Caden Lindstrom and shot it just under the armpit of the Irish goalie to throw the Spartans back in front. Then Porter Martone iced the game with this empty netter to solidify the Spartans' 4-2 win over Notre Dame. The next night, it was Martone again who struck early on the power play less than 2 minutes into the game. The Fighting Irish, though, responded like they did in Game 1 with their own power play goal, leading to a tied contest at the intermission. Riker Lee then put MSU back in front with this night 45 seconds into the second period. Then, after MSU would kill a 5-minute major penalty, it was, guess who, Martone again with his second of the night. This time unassisted to put MSU up 3-1. Later, Tommy Manisto got in on the fun and broke free for the shorthanded score. Notre Dame would cut the deficit down to 2 less than a minute later, but an explosive final frame for MSU put this one out of reach. In the midst of that frenzy, it would be Martone scoring again, securing his first career hat trick on the rebound. The Spartans scoring avalanche just continued from there. Lee, with his second of the game, put the exclamation point on the dominant 8-2 MSU victory. Following the game, Coach Adam Nightingale and Martone reflected on the team's growth and physicality throughout the season.
I think we're at our best when we play physical, you know, and I think that's what our sport's about, right? And obviously got to do it within the rules, but I think that's where I kind of fell in love with the sport, right? The physical side of it, and I think that's when we're at our best, and especially, you know, getting closer to playoffs here, it's going to get tighter and tighter and more physical, and our guys have shown that they can handle that.
You know, there were some rough patches at the start of the season, and I think we did have a bit of a younger team, but, you know, Coach Nightingale says second half there's no more freshmen. And, you know, I think that, you know, all the younger guys have kind of, you know, stepped up into bigger roles, and our older guys are guiding us.
MSU will be back in Munn Ice Arena for its last homestand of the regular season against the Ohio State Buckeyes. Puck drop is set for Friday night at 8:30.
The number 11 Michigan State women's gymnastics team hosted number 21 Ohio State for its annual breast cancer awareness meet last Saturday at Jennison Fieldhouse. Starting at the vault, Captain Olivia Zarmani stuck her landing, posting an impressive 9.95, putting her team in the lead after the opening rotation. And on the bars, MSU stayed hot, posting a season high for the second week in a row. Nikki Smith and Michaela Tucker each earning a 9.90 for the team. Despite this, the Buckeyes were able to take all 3 titles on the beam. MSU was able to keep the lead, though, with Katie Duplessis scoring a 9.85. And closing the meet out on the floor, Smith earned her fourth title of the season with a 9.975, securing the victory for Michigan State. The Spartans will be headed to Minneapolis to take on Illinois, Rutgers, and Minnesota for the Big Four meet this Sunday, March 1st at 4 p.m.
The then number 18 ranked Michigan State women's basketball team hosted its annual Senior Day against a struggling Northwestern team last Wednesday. MSU won the tip and never looked back. Kennedy Blair and Grace Van Sluten got things started, scoring 10 points combined in the first 5 minutes. However, it was Van Sluten who took the reins, ending with a season-high 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. Alongside Van Sluten, Mara Dykstra exploded in the first half, notching 11 points and finishing with a season-high 14 overall. After a big MSU lead at halftime, Northwestern looked to the hands of Grace Sullivan. Nation's top 15 scorer concluded her night with 23 points. Spartans got back, though, on track from this dish from Van Sluten to Blair for the and one. This propelled the green and white and their 6 seniors to a celebratory 104-68 victory. Head coach Robin Freilich highlighted her group's cohesion and what it needs to play at its best.
This group has found a way to really come together and to appreciate each other, to rely on each other. And something we've learned is this team, when we're at our best, really needs each other.
MSU rode its momentum into Minnesota to face the 23rd ranked Golden Gophers. Spartans' wall stood strong as it held Minnesota to its worst shooting game of the season. Offensively, senior guard Jaylen Brown led the way for MSU with 20 points as the Spartans pulled away with the 75-61 victory, which is arguably might end up being one of their biggest wins of the season on their NCAA tournament resume. Freilich's squad concludes the regular season this Sunday at noon, hosting the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Over the weekend, the Michigan State men's and women's track and field teams had 2 invitationals in 2 days. In the first meet, Silverstone in Ann Arbor, the Spartans took the first 3 events. Sophomore Dylan Morlock notched 19.62 in the men's shot put, the second best throw in Michigan State history. Sparty took the first 2 events at the second meet, Alex Wilson in South Bend, as grad senior Noah Sage took first place in the men's 400 meter with a time of 47.47 seconds. Both teams will head to Indianapolis for the Big Ten Indoor Championships on Thursday, February 26th.
Well, Kyle, that Groundhog Phil may have predicted 6 more weeks of winter, but another one of our winter sports is coming to a close. MSU wrestling had its last duel of the season on Friday against Central Michigan. Before the action started, 4 senior Spartans were honored in Senior Day celebrations. The first match would set the stage for the rest of the duel with this nail-biter win from Nick Corday in the 125-pound weight class. From there, the teams traded back and forth decisions, including this Chippewa win in the 141-pound match. That was the only major decision of the night. Then it would be the 165-pound wrestlers that would be the climax of the duel. After a sudden victory period ended in yet another tie, Michigan State's DJ Shannon lost in the first tiebreaker by fall. The loss awarded the Chippewas with 6 points. That would be the securing factor of the duel. The Spartans would pull off another pair of wins, but would not be able to overtake Central's lead. Despite winning 5 matches each, Michigan State took the loss 15-19. Spartans will travel to the Keystone State to wrestle in the Big Ten Wrestling Championship on March 7th.
After an East Coast trip, the women's tennis team returned home in search of a win, and the Spartans welcomed in the Toledo Rockets and clinched the doubles point before taking a 2-0 lead. The contest ultimately leveled at 3-3, but senior Mathilde Morais played hero, running away with a 6-1 win in the third set and a 4-3 win for MSU. Looking to sweep the weekend, the Spartans took on their 3rd Ivy League opponent in the past 9 days, facing Dartmouth. They got out to an early 1-0 lead after taking the doubles point. In singles, MSU got its first point from Hannah Tidovitz, making quick work in a 6-1, 6-4 match win, but still down 2-1 at that point. After a loss on court 2 and a win on court 6, it would come down to the final 2 matches. With Morais up in her 3rd set of her match, Nina Plehal's match would decide the winner. Plehal would lose 6 games to 3 in the 3rd set, and Dartmouth walked away with a 4-2 win. Big Ten play is on serve now, headed down to Columbus, Ohio to take on the number 2 Ohio State Buckeyes on Saturday at noon.
The Michigan State men's tennis team traveled to Kalamazoo this past Sunday to take on the Western Michigan Broncos. MSU secured the doubles point and swept the Broncos in singles, highlighted by a dominant performance from sophomore Daniel Rakhmatuliev. The Spartans took a 7-0 win and will now travel to Tempe, Arizona for the Diablos Collegiate Invitational this Friday.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Spartan Sports Report.
For more content, make sure to check out the Spartan Newsroom website and all of our social medias down below. I'm Jacob Maurer.
And I'm Kyle Keegan, and we'll see you next week.